I had a plan this time. I was going to go to Queen Mary, do a nice pre-scripted test shoot for this film I've been looking forward for a long time, and it just fell apart. Hey guys, this is Sam. Welcome back to another episode of Remember how I always say Gold 200 is my lucky film? But is this lucky film actually gold? See my play on words there? In today's video, I will show you 3 rolls I shot on my Pentax 645 and 2. So everything we discuss in this video is strictly 120 format. As for the 35mm version, that just have to be another time. Queen Mary was hosting a camera day event with vendors, models. Look at this huge ship. This was my first time visiting the Queen Mary. Such a beautiful and unique place to take pictures. And I heard it's haunted. Glad we came in bright daylight. I bought this film in China for 52 yuan per roll. That's about $8. In US, you can find this film somewhere between $10 to $15 per roll, depending on who you're going with, which I can't say it's cheap as a consumer level film stock. The price is not as competitive, but I think that's also for you to determine. Alright, let's dive right into the photos. The first one came out, well, ignore the composition. The color looks pretty nice. The whites are pretty clean, the blacks are pretty clean, the blue are nice and vibrant. When we got on the ship, I took a portrait of this crew member, and when we got indoor, you start notice the film green gets a little more noticeable and a little more muddy. As for the light leak you see at the very bottom of the picture, we'll get to that. To test this film, I shot it the same way I would shoot Gold 200 since they're both 200 speed film. That means I would more or less overexpose majority of the frames. Actually, before I got to the deck of this ship, I didn't know there will be models. And what's even more interesting is they all happen to wear red. On a sunny afternoon, around like 4:30ish, that beautiful sunlight is still pretty directional, but not brutally harsh. There were a lot of photographers shooting at the same time. I anxiously stepped in and captured just whatever I could. Look at this crazy red. This is the most saturated red I've ever seen coming off a 200 speed film. It wasn't like those warm, slightly orange yellowish red like the Gold 200. It was this pure, almost electric red. People always say Kodak yellow, Fuji green. Well, you look at the package of Lucky. There is your Lucky red. In direct sunlight, the whole frame is evenly lit, and both the highlight and the shadow came off very clean. Another model who had a fair, lighter skin tone, also wearing red, and the fabric used on this type of gown reflected light even better than the first dress we saw, which was a slightly muted red velvet. The red on this one came off even more beautifully. While the reds were popping off, the blue remains at a decent saturation with very fine green, especially when going a stopover. The sky looks very nice and soft, not as rich, as vibrant as the red at all. So cyan and the blue are clearly not this film's priority. The red is. Now you can go out, load up this film, and look for something red to shoot. Let's take a closer look of the skin tone. On the lighter skinned model in direct sunlight, it looked warm and flattering. It's actually really nice. But on the darker skinned model, the red pushed her skin towards a deeper, more saturated tone, which not in a bad way. And also you can pull it back in editing as well. Like I said in the beginning, I overexposed a lot of those frames, and quickly I realized when looking at the photos when I was editing, with this film, you gotta be more careful with overexposure, and you gotta watch for the red and the magenta channel bleed through your highlights. This shot actually looks pretty close to how I remember Go 200 would look though. You stand. Let's have you come over here. Follow me. All right. Actually, before I came to Queen Mary, I already shot a role in Little Tokyo where I had some different lighting situation and where I experimented with exposure level a little more. This film, like most other film stock, handles overexposure better than underexposure. The highlights are much easier to pull down than the shadow to be bring up. And I feel like this film has a lower dynamic range than Gold 200. You can see in these two photos, slightly underexposed. The shadow area just crashed pretty quickly. So I guess with this film, you either expose it correctly or go slightly over. Try not to underexpose it. Overall, just watch for the magenta in the highlight and watch for the green tint in the shadow. Well, some of you might find this magenta red in the highlight versus the green tint in the shadow kind of a contrast has an interesting vintage look. If that's the case, this is your film. Otherwise, because we are in 120 format, you do have a lot of room to work with when it comes to editing. If I was shooting on 35mm, I'd be more stressed about fine-tuning it. Well, I guess, and I guess we have to find out when we actually shoot 35mm. The reason I said this test shoot fell apart quickly, you might have noticed those light leaks throughout this two roll here and there. That's because when my Pentax 645N2 finish the roll, it will roll the film back automatically, normally. But this time, for some reason, the back paper just stuck on the end of the spool. And I had no idea what happened. I just hear my camera was rolling the film back and then all of a sudden it stopped. I panicked. At that point, I didn't know if there's something wrong with my camera or if I didn't load the film correctly or everything I shot just went poof. I was pretty stressed out. So I found a relatively dark corner, used my jacket to cover the camera as much as I could, and then I opened the back and tried to save it. Then I realized what went wrong. The back paper stick on the spool. Then I peeled the backing paper off and then took the film out. Since the roll didn't completely wind back, I guess that's when the light leak happened. I will say this is the first time this ever happened to me and to this camera, and it happened twice in a row on the same film stock. The tape even left some sticky residue on my film holder, which can be cleaned, so it's not too big of a deal. But I didn't want to continue shooting with this film before I was more prepared for this issue, so I bought a roll of Gold 200 at one of the vendors and shot one more roll at Queen Mary that day. To be very honest with you, I wasn't planning on compare these two film stock, at least not the first time I'm shooting it. But here we are, 来都来了. Let's take a look of the Gold 200 roll, shall we? Well, at least I can tell you the Gold 200 rolled back totally fine. So it's not my camera and it's not me. If Lucky 200 is this young, flashy, outgoing, fashionable new friend that I don't know very well just yet, then the Gold 200 felt like my shy, quiet bestie who I grew up with, who doesn't say much but always have my back. That familiar, soft, slightly warm tone, the smooth color transition, the highlight roll off. The whole image just felt managed and more balanced. I think part of the reason why I felt Gold 200 is easier to work with just simply because I know it better. I know how to read the negative. I know where to push and pull. I know how much contrast I want to add and how I want my saturation to look. Lucky is just a new territory and I'm still on the learning curve with it. So, Lucky 200 in 120 format. Let's wrap this up. First impression, strong red, decent mid-tone, slightly muted cyan blue, punchy contrast in good lighting, and you do need to be more careful with exposure because the latitude is less forgiving. Lucky 200 is a film with real personality. Is it perfect? No, I've read a lot of reviews pointing out the quality issue. The 120, I think it's better than the 135. And since the film has been out there for a year now, I believe the quality definitely got more stable and consistent. Is there room to improve? Yes. I mean, this film doesn't even have its brand like Lucky 200 imprint on the side of the negative just yet. But I mean, the spirit is good. The color identity is there. It wasn't trying to be something that's already exists. And for everything analog photography is going through right now, rising prices, shrinking options, established name losing storefronts, have a manufacturer of Lucky's scale and the level back in the game, it's genuinely exciting. Right now, there are only 5 manufacturers in this entire world that can produce color negative film. 5. Lucky is one of them. And they just came back from over a decade of silence. Hey guys, this is Sam. We are at Lucky Film Factory. We're going to their production line right now. Cannot film inside, so a while back I actually went to Lucky's film factory in China, and I had a chance to spoke with their chief technician. Let me just say, restarting a production line that had been cold for many years is definitely challenging, but there are good people, good team who have faith in the future of analog, working very hard to build the Lucky Film family back up again. I mean, definitely don't quote me on this, but higher speed film, large format sheet film, more professional grade film stock, even positive film, we don't know. Anything could happen. Lucky have plans, and I have faith. This is Sam. I will see you next time. Bye!